Hey, what's that noise? What's that noise? What's a train whistle got to do with the lake? What's this railroad cap that I've got on? What does it have to do with this bicycle shirt that I've got on? It's a mystery. We'll have to sort it out. We're going to go biking on a railroad bed, on an abandoned railroad bed, deep in southern British Columbia, in the Okanagan country. So if you come along, I'll tell you about this country. It runs north of Kelowna, up to a place called Vernon. I'll tell you about the country, we'll show you a few things, and we'll have us a good bike ride. The Okanagan Rail Trail in green here runs between the cities of Kelowna in the south and Vernon in the north. That's a distance of about 50 kilometers. And we were just looking at a picture of us when we rode along the trail along the shore of Lake Kalamalka. And next to Lake Kalamalka, as you can see here in white, is another smaller lake, Wood Lake, and a community right where the two lakes join. And that community is called Oyama. And we'll bicycle all through this area. Highway 97 is the main highway that runs in the north from the Trans-Canada Highway down south to the American border and runs through both Vernon and Kelowna. Over just a short distance to the east, or rather to the west, you can see the big lake, Okanagan. Okay, let's take a little bit more of a look and a ride on the Okanagan Rail Trail. Right now we are biking southward along the west side of the lake. Later, at the south end, we will cross to the other side of the on the former railway bed at Oyama and end up biking along the east side of the smaller Wood Lake. So follow us along. It's a very smooth surface and a picturesque ride enjoyed by a lot of people. The map shows here where the rail trail is not complete all the way to Kelowna. Around the Kelowna airport, there's a section not yet completed. The section near Kelowna and in Kelowna is a paved surface. The surface as you go north toward Vernon is a hard-packed aggregate gravel, and both are really easy riding, nice riding surfaces. Things take turns over time, it seems. In the beginning, it was the time for paddlers and walkers. When the white man came, things changed. It was then time for ships to carry cargo up and down this lake. Then the trains killed the ships. Then they built roads and highways later, and the trucks killed the trains. All that was left was an empty rail line of no use. Then it became our turn. The bikers, the joggers, the walkers. It was our turn to fill the vacuum. We are the walkers, the joggers, and the bikers. So let's bike on down the trail. It is our turn. Here is a little closer look at the Railbed Trail. It's an old former Canadian National Railway line that purchased a lot of these smaller lines. And the rail trail runs on the west side of Lake Kalamalka, and we'll do a lot of riding and showing you pictures there until you get to Oyama. Then the rail line made a turn and crossed over to the other side of the lakes. And at Oyama, then going south toward Kelowna, you go along Wood Lake, but you're on the east side of the lake this time. Now, the highway at one time has been moved higher up the hillside, and it's a 4-lane fast highway, Highway 97. But the old highway used to run down along the lake. It was the 2-lane highway, and that's the white part here. And if you're biking, you can come from Vernon down the lake and cross over at Oyama and go to the other side at Wood Lake. Or you can ride the old paved 2-lane highway as far south as the community of Winfield. Before we biked the trail north near Vernon, we stopped in at the waterfront in downtown Kelowna. The paved trail runs from here north to the airport, where they have that section not yet completed. And this is a scan of the downtown Kelowna waterfront. There is a sizable yacht club and boats in the waterfront downtown here. This is a nice sculpture downtown. Benches to sit on, and water was trickling out of the sculpture. And we'll do a scan of the big, large green grass area, lawn area that's at the waterfront here. It's in the early spring. Things weren't on the leaves on the trees yet. It's a well built up high-end area. Nice buildings. You have to pay parking. It gets crowded. This is a statue of Ogopogo, the legendary monster that is supposed to inhabit the lake. Did someone say they saw Ogopogo the other day? Or did they really see a big floating log out in the lake? Or was it one of those giant fish that once inhabited the lake? The mighty sturgeon. They say Ogopogo has tipped over canoes and even pulled horses underwater. If you are looking out at Lake Okanagan, keep your eye out for Ogopogo. There's no shortage of e-bikes to rent along the waterfront, but let's get in the camper and head north to Vernon and get biking. Here was our first look at Vernon, a kind of dry, hot country in the summertime especially. The 4-lane highway is high above the lake itself, and here's a few pictures of the lake. It was called Long Lake at one time for obvious reasons, but eventually changed to Kalamalka after one of the chiefs, indigenous chiefs in the area, who was a very popular guy. He wanted to become a Christian and baptized, but he had 4 wives. So the deal was get rid of your wives and get baptized. He did, and then promptly took another young maiden for his new wife. The lake is 16 kilometers long and very deep, 60 meters deep on average, and a maximum depth of 140 meters. The train ran very slowly along this part of the track, with only 2 meters to the lake and on one side and 2 meters to rock cliffs and falling rocks on the other. There was no set time schedule for the trains. What took trucks only 20 minutes on the highway took the train 2 hours. But we can enjoy the same railroad trail today. There's the highway up high. That's the new 4-lane highway up above us. Today, trains have the unquestioned right-of-way at crossings, but in the early days on this line, the railway was pressured by irritated drivers to not hold up traffic at the crossings. On average, the train hit 3 cars per year as the slow-moving train made its way down the track, hauling things like lumber, sand, soda ash, and general freight. Even though trains are more efficient and less polluting than truck traffic, they still lost the competition for hauling cargo. Look at this comparison here between trucks and trains in terms of efficiency. Kilometers hauled for 1 ton of freight. How far could each type of transportation haul 1 ton of freight? Well, in this study, consistent with other studies, a truck could haul 1 ton of freight 100 kilometers. In comparison, a train could haul it 3 times more, over 300 kilometers. Let's look at a second comparison in terms of pollution and emissions. Hydrocarbon emissions compared trucks to trains. For the same amount of freight, trucks are 2/3 more polluting than trains. So then, why did the trains lose to the trucks? Well, motivation for individual and private enterprise favored the truck companies. Also, the demand for the automobile meant roads had to be built, and trucks had the support of both the business world and the majority of people who wanted to drive cars. But it seems that the loss of the railroad was our gain. The joggers, the hikers, and the bikers. Water in the lake is clear and picturesque. In winter, the color is blue, but in summer, the limestone crystals in the lake reflect the sunlight to give it a combination of blue, green, and turquoise colors. Kalamalka has been called the Lake of 1,000 colors. Okay, let's get back on the trail again. Most of the biking is in rural areas like this, with the lake on one side and land on the other. There was not many people on the trail when we were there. It was early spring, but in the summertime, this is a well-used and very popular trail. It gets hot in the summertime and people seek the beaches. Orchard trees were just starting to bloom. This country boomed up as a cattle area that fed miners during the gold rush era over on the Fraser River. O'Keefe Ranch, just north of Vernon, is a popular historic ranch visited by many people each year. Overgrazing and low prices gradually changed the area from ranch lands to orchards. And now the tourists are becoming the main source of activity and income. There was a few places where we biked past some very well-to-do homes, and you could see well-to-do homes up in the valley on the hills as well. We stayed at this provincial park along the lake, and it was a very nice place. No trouble getting a campsite because of the time of year, but in summer you need the reservations to squeeze into this very popular park. And the park was right along the trail between our camper and the lake there. These guys were the real entertainers at the campground, yellow-bellied marmots. They liked the campground as well as us, and there probably was as many or more of them than campers. These Marmots are related to squirrels and prairie dogs. They hibernate in winter and are herbivorous, eating, grain, leaves, blossoms, grains, and fruits. Let's see how close we can get to this guy. Oh, he's moving. Okay, come on. No, he's had enough of me. It was fun to ride under this overhead in the area. We've been riding down the shoreline of Lake Kalamalka, and we're going to cross over at the community of Oyama, over to the other side and come down the eastern side of Wood Lake. We are crossing the short canal between the two lakes that was dug to equalize the level of the two lakes. Originally, the water level of Wood Lake was a meter or so higher than that of Lake Kalamalka. The water eventually moves slowly northward to the end of Lake Kalamalka, and then by Vernon Creek into the big lake, Lake Okanagan. You can hear the tires on the hard-packed gravel as we go by Oyama, the community that's between the two lakes. You can get a drink and bite to eat at Oyama. There's a parking lot available there, and we stopped at this little rest area. We had a bite to eat here, and it was beside a nice little waterfall. The lake is not crowded, but there were several places where people had set up along shore. And, there were some houses along the trail. Some houses were very, very nice indeed. Like this one here. And there was people walking and really enjoying the trail. It's just a very pleasant ride. At one time, Vernon was the largest center in the Okanagan, but now that is Kelowna. We'll just scan the length of the lake here. You can see Vernon at the north end of the lake. A well-known tire company across Western Canada is called Cal Tire, and it's named after the lake. The owner lived nearby and wanted to name his company after the lake, but Kalamalka seemed to be a little too long for a name. So he took the first three letters, K-A-L, and that became the name for his tire company, Cal Tire. He opened the first Cal Tire store in Vernon and expanded from there. Come along, let's ride it on out. All right, how was that for a bike ride? Pretty good, eh? This is just another example of railway beds converted to hiking and biking trails. There's a good one in the Okanagan, but there's a lot of other good ones elsewhere, and we've made some videos on those as well. So this is I Go Travel with Don Barnett. Hit the subscribe button and you'll know when more of these videos will come up. We've got one or two coming up every 2 or 3 weeks for the next little while here. So we'll see you in the next travelogue.